Ever since Paula Sladewski's body had been found burned beyond recognition in a dumpster, her boyfriend Kevin had been a suspect in her murder.
He was a suspect because he was the last person to see her alive.
Police interviewed him for 12 hours.
He cooperated with them and gave them everything.
Offering to do polygraphs, whatever law enforcement wanted, he was there to assist.
Kevin had seemed genuinely distraught when Paula first went missing, calling hospitals and the medical examiner's office, even reporting her disappearance to police as he searched for her with the help of PI David Wasser.
I listened to his story, both with the police and as we had time together. Tell her that I can meet her at 2:30.
And Wasser was convinced Kevin was innocent, as was Kevin's attorney, Mark Beginnin.
From the moment I met him, I realized that he had nothing to do with this.
But Detective Michael Gaudio wasn't so sure.
Initially, I didn't believe his story.
That after getting thrown out of Club Space nightclub for causing a disturbance with Paula, that he took a taxi back to his hotel in South Beach and went to sleep.
Initially, I thought it was odd that he'd leave her there.
Detective Gaudio also discovered Kevin had once been arrested on domestic violence charges for allegedly hitting Paula.
When I learned that they had that incident of domestic violence where her nose was broken, that's something any investigator is gonna look at twice, especially in the situation that we're in now.
The domestic battery case was ultimately dismissed, although Paula's mom claims her daughter once told her Kevin had also threatened to kill her.
She confided in me and told me, you know, how he threatened her, that if she ever left him, that he would cut her up in little pieces and put her in a bag. They'd never find her body. She told me that. Excuse me.
And Kevin and Paula's drunken argument at Club Space after she went wild and began flirting with other men wasn't the first time it had happened.
It was definitely a rocky relationship. They were the type of couple that liked to party.
But Kevin's attorney, Mark Beginnin, says Kevin's alibi of going straight back to the hotel after Club Space was airtight.
There's cab records and there's hotel records that show that.
His alibi checked out 100%.
And eventually, Detective Gaudio also came to believe Kevin may not have had anything to do with Paula's murder.
We explored several avenues how he could possibly have been involved. Nothing ever could pan out on it. His stories seemed credible. In the investigation, we found out everything he was telling us we followed up on was accurate.
This surveillance video from Club Space further supported Kevin's alibi.
It shows Kevin going out first.
And the shadowy figure right there behind Paula raised questions about whether her killer might have even have followed her out of the club.
As she's walking out, she's got a man following her. There's a couple bouncers that are sitting by the front door hallway there, and they immediately follow her out of there as well.
It was the one concrete piece of evidence that showed that Kevin was not the last person to see Paula alive.
Detective Gaudio investigated all the bouncers at the club.
All their timesheets and records and their backgrounds, nothing proved that they had any involvement with her disappearance at all.
Nor, says Detective Gaudio, did the man seen following her out the door, who turned out to also be one of the club's security staff. But Kevin's attorney still believes it is possible she was tailed by a patron in the club.
What do you believe happened to Paula that morning?
I can't say for certain, but what we do know is that Paula left. There were some witnesses' accounts that she left with another person, and that is all we know.
Police would later release a sketch of a man one witness said they saw walking away from the club with Paula.
I decided to put that out in lieu of having anything else hard to put out there. Maybe we can find another witness who can verify a story that we heard of somebody matching this description.
But that hasn't happened, and Detective Gaudio is left with nothing more than a hunch.
Whoever she hooked up with, either an argument ensued, something happened, she didn't want to be where she was anymore, and she ended up there.
And the remote industrial area where Paula's body was found incinerated in this dumpster is one of the reasons Detective Gaudio thinks Kevin is innocent, because he didn't have a car to get there, nor enough knowledge of Miami to find it. The killer is more likely to have been a local resident who knew the city well.
It's not a place that tourists frequent. It's kind of an out-of-the-way, dead-end street. So I believe somebody in the area knows something about it or had something to do with it.
They would have seen smoke from this dumpster.
P.I. Wasser concurs and says the fact that neither he nor the police could find any witnesses who might have seen Paula's murderer disposing of her body and setting the dumpster on fire indicates the killer knew he would not be spotted.
From my investigation, and I canvassed this area right here, nobody saw anything, nobody knew anything.
Now, 6 years after the murder of Paula Sladewski, her killer, whoever he may be, is still free, leaving her family in a painful, emotional limbo.
Before I go to be with her one day in heaven, I would just like to know who's responsible for hurting her, for taking my baby away, especially the way that she was taken.
We just would really like some answers, and the person that did this horrible crime should pay.
And Detective Gaudio remains hopeful of bringing Paula's killer to justice.
I would like to one day be able to make that phone call and tell them that, give them the good news, at least bring them some peace of mind anyway.
Perhaps with the help of Crime Watch Daily.
Right now, hoping something like this can regenerate an interest in the case. Somebody knows what happened.
Matt, I did trade communications with Kevin Klim for this story, but he declined an interview. But the North Miami police do tell us that he's been cooperative, his alibi checks out, and he is at the bottom of their list.
Which begs the question for me then, who is at the top of their list and what's the latest on the investigation?
Well, according to detectives, from what they say, it was probably someone that Paula met that night, maybe someone inside the club, or maybe someone that she ran into when she walked outside onto the sidewalk.
Let's hope they are zeroing in. Thank you very much for the update there, Michelle. If you have any information at all on this case, you can submit a tip at our website, that is crimewatchdaily.com, or alternatively, you could call or text our toll-free tip line. That number is 1-844-800-CRIME.